Welcome everybody to Laurie Sports Rhetoric. I'll be your host today, Daimon, and today I'm going to continue my segment on what I'm looking forward to in 2022. If you're not familiar with this segment, what I'm doing here is talking college football. I'm a huge college football fan. Florida State's my favorite team. Also like to watch IU, because if you don't know, I'm a big IU basketball fan from Indiana. Currently living in Oklahoma City. So basically, for, I don't know, as long as I can remember, I have watched college football all day Saturday. Try to watch it Thursday night if there's good games on there. If there's a good game on Friday night, I'll try to watch that too. So what this segment is about, where I got the idea for it is, basically, I drive my wife nuts by watching 3 TVs in my living room and putting games on from like, as soon as they start at like noon and going all the way until like 1 o'clock in the morning. I try to keep 3 games on all 3 TVs if possible. So I typically plan that out in the morning or maybe a couple days ahead of time. Have an idea of what the schedule looks like, what games are what time, and what games on what screen. Have my number 1 screen, my number 2 screen, and number 3 screen. So in order to kind of have an idea of what I want to do or what I try to do, I do play college fantasy football, so a lot of the times that will determine who I watch. But if that's not a factor, then it's what good games are out there. If that's not a factor, then it's what good players can I watch? Who's interesting? Who's entertaining? I try to, watch many different teams as possible that are good, that are fun to watch. And, also with an eye on the NFL draft. If you watch our NFL draft video, I try to know as much about as many prospects as I can. I hope to watch most of those guys at least once or twice so that I can speak intelligently about them when I do the NFL draft video. Before we do videos, just so I can speak intelligently about them when I'm talking to my brother about the draft. So that's kind of the thing that is behind this segment, that this segment's about. And so with that in mind, I'm doing each conference. There'll be a video for each conference out. Today's video is going to be about the Big 12 and what players, storylines, and coaches am I most interested in and drawn to watching in the Big 12. And that's, the Big 12 is a fun one to watch anyway. Like, I don't know if you're a fan of football, I don't know how you could not like the Big 12 unless you're an SEC fan and you don't like watching touchdowns. In that case, even the SEC has kind of turned into the Big 12 as far as the offenses go. So, I for the last couple of decades, even though I'm a Florida State fan and an IU fan, I always think the Big 10 is very good, but the Big 12 I watch a lot just because there's a lot of fun, a lot of good players, a lot of fun coaches. And I think right now it's a very interesting time in the Big 12. So we're going to start with Baylor. That's the team I'm most interested in this coming season. I think since Coach Arnado got there, he has been, fantastic. They're a team on the rise. They had a fantastic year last year. So I'm curious to see what they look like this year. I know Chapin is the new quarterback there. I'm curious to see what he looks like. I hear good things about him. And I know they got a new defensive coordinator. So does that D continue to play at a high level? The head coach is a defensive-minded guy. So you would assume that the D will stay good, but I'd like to see it. They had a couple of good players on the defense last year. Who steps up and really catches my eye this year with an eye towards the draft? So those are the kind of storylines I'm looking for. But mostly they're a fun team to watch. Another very interesting team this year will be Oklahoma, obviously. Lincoln Riley is kind of a dirty word around these parts in Oklahoma City these days. People don't like to talk about him, and if they do like to talk about him, it's not favorable. So, what does Venables bring in? He's back. He's defensive minded. He brought in a good offensive coordinator from Ole Miss, who brought in a transfer from UCF from his days there. So, what does Dylan Gabriel look like at quarterback? Can he have them be a high-octane offense and then also allow Venables to implement his defense from Clemson? How long does it take for that defense to really hit its stride? There should be some good athletes. You would think the cupboard wasn't bare, but I don't know. Can they come out right at the gate or not? I'm curious to see all that stuff, and I gotta watch some Oklahoma because I live in Oklahoma City, so I gotta have something to talk to the people about, right? With that said, you can't talk about Oklahoma without talking about Texas. So, to me, there are certain teams that when they're in the top 10, college football is better. I think Miami, I said that in the ACC video about Miami, even though I don't like Miami. The same goes for Texas. Like when they're in the top 10, college football is better. I love watching those burnt orange uniforms. And some of my favorite games over the years have been Texas games. I think probably my favorite of all time is the Texas USC game. That was so good. So, can they get back to that high level of play? I think Sark is a good head coach, and he's definitely been good with quarterbacks. So getting that transfer from Ohio State, I think you say his name is Ewers. I think it's Ewers or Evers, something like that. Book is on him. He's supposed to be really good. So does he realize that talent in Texas? Does he take them to a new level? Very interested to see that. They have a wide receiver, Xavier Worthy, who I loved watching last year. I felt like he was inconsistent, but also the quarterback play was inconsistent. So with a better quarterback, I could see him become a superstar, but he's going to have to be more consistent for that to happen. So I'm very interested to see if that happens. And then the running back Robinson is fantastic. If you're not familiar with him, you should definitely at least tune into one game just to watch him play. He's really good. So that's a team I'm definitely curious about. And then also being here in Oklahoma, I got to talk about Oklahoma State, right? Oklahoma State has been at the top of the Big 12 for a while now. Gundy has done a good job, but they haven't really broke through to being like that national level team. I think lately the defense has been really good, so I'm curious to see if that can continue. They brought in Derek Mason. When he was at Stanford with Jim Harbaugh, I thought that those defenses were a ton of fun to watch. Didn't watch him so much at Vanderbilt. I was curious, but they just didn't win enough for me to catch my attention. I think that's a hard place to win. So now that he's back as a defense coordinator, I'm very interested to see what the defense looks like. And Oklahoma, like I said, Oklahoma State's been pretty good. So can he keep them at that higher level? And then with Sanders, Sanders has been there for a long time. I heard great things about him when he was a freshman. I feel like he hasn't really reached that potential, but he does kind of he almost feels like he could be one of those guys. Like I remember when Matt Ryan was at BC, he was just okay. He was kind of solid, but not great. And then his senior year, he just blows up. Kenny Pickett at Pitt, solid, but not great. You kept hearing about how he was, maybe better than the numbers suggested. And then his senior year, he blows up. So I kind of feel like Sanders has the potential to do that. Gundy's offense definitely will provide him the opportunity to do that. So can he do that? I think that's an interesting storyline for this year. From there, I think you look at Iowa State as a team that, can they bounce back? Matt Campbell has been a great head coach. His name has been linked to a lot of big jobs over the last few years. He kind of brought them from nowhere into being a contender. But I feel like last year they kind of took a step back. Like last year was supposed to be their year, right? They had the senior quarterback. They had the tight end that had been, starting since he was a freshman, NFL level tight end. They had one of the best running backs in college football in Hall. And yet they just kind of underperformed. So I'm curious to see, can they have a bounce back year? What's the new quarterback look like? I haven't really watched them without Purdy as the quarterback because he was the quarterback that kind of brought them out of that bad area. So I'm curious to see what that looks like. And then the running back, I feel like they've had one good running back after another. Hall was no exception to that. And so can they get another one? Do they have another one in the stable? And what will that guy look like? And will he be as fun to watch as the previous few have been? So that one I think is a very interesting team to keep an eye on. I think from there, thinking about Kansas State, actually, I know they haven't been great lately. And for the majority of the time that I've watched college football, I haven't watched a lot of Kansas State. But I'm very interested in Adrian Martinez transferring from Nebraska. I thought that I always thought he was going to be good at Nebraska. I thought that was going to be a great marriage between him and Frost, and it hasn't really happened. So I'm curious to see. I know that the new Kansas State offensive coordinator is one of their former quarterbacks. I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but I know that he's in charge. So should see that Kansas State read option football. Their running back is fantastic. If you're not familiar with him, he's a little dynamo named Deuce Vaughn. Or not, is it Deuce Vaughn? Yeah, Deuce Vaughn. He is, he's like 5'6", but he's just a jet, right? Like, makes huge plays left and right. So I think the combination of those two could be very interesting. I don't know how much they'll compete, but they should be fun to watch. So definitely will be tuning into those guys. TCU, I think, is interesting. They got Sonny Dykes now. Sonny Dykes he's been good where he's been. I think He's always had offenses that really did well. At Cal, he couldn't quite put together the whole package. But, I think he was, if I remember right, he was at Louisiana Tech before Cal, and then at SMU. Always fun offenses. So it'll be interesting to see with him at TCU. Can they get that offense going? I know Duggins was a highly rated kid out of high school. I don't feel like he's really lived up to the hype. Can Dykes get him going, or does he get beat out by, I can't remember the name of the kid behind him, but there's another highly rated young kid. Does he beat him out for the job? And can Dykes get that rolling from day one, or is it going to take him a couple years to get it going? I think that's an interesting thing to keep an eye on. And then I got a couple programs that I think are very similar. You got Texas Tech. They got a new head coach, but the interesting thing to me is that they brought in the offensive coordinator from Western Kentucky, right? So I think his name is Kitley. I think you say Kitley or Kitley. Anyway, if you didn't watch Western Kentucky last year, they lit the scoreboard on fire. They chucked the ball all over the place. And they had like 4 wide receivers that had over 1,000 yards. It was ridiculous. And from what I know, he's a Kingsbury protege. Kitley is. So it'd be really interesting to see a Kingsbury protege go to Texas Tech with a defensive-minded coach and maybe take them to a new level. So I'm curious to see what that looks like. Will that offense hit from day one, or will it take him some time? I mean, he hit Western Kentucky right off the bat, but he brought some transfers with him, and a little bit different level of play there with Western Kentucky versus what's going on in the Big 12. So I'm curious to see how that looks. And then West Virginia, I think, to me, that coaching staff, since Hogerson left, they've been inconsistent. They haven't really got it done. And so I think it was interesting they hired Graham Harrell, so another Texas Tech guy, come in, run that Texas Tech offense, and he's paired with the transfer JT Daniels, right? So JT Daniels was at USC, played for Harrell, and I thought they were actually a pretty good pairing. I think JT Daniels was one of the better guys in that USC system when he was healthy, but the kid's not been able to stay healthy. He's been highly regarded, but his play has not matched it. So is this, now that he's been around the block a few times, been a couple different stops, the level of expectations at West Virginia are a little bit lower than at Georgia and USC, so maybe with a little less pressure on him and being reunited with Harrell, we can finally see all that talent realized. So I'm curious to see that. And then their running back situation. Lonnie Brown has been one of my favorite running backs to watch over the last couple of years. So I thought that it was really, I'm really curious to see what they do at running back this year. Do they have a guy that can step up and kind of fill those shoes? So those are the teams I'm kind of interested in, the players and the reasons why. Kansas, I get it. I didn't mention your team. If you want to try to sell me on why you should watch your team, you can try. I just don't find that very compelling right now. But hey, don't worry about it. Come basketball season, if I do a what to watch for in 2022 basketball version, I'll definitely be talking about Kansas then. So we'll see you at that time. Anyway, that's the video for today. If you liked what I had to say, comment. We're looking for comments. That's the channel is Lowry Sports Rhetoric. We like to have conversation. We like to interact with other fans that are as passionate about their team as we are with ours. We always are interested to hear what other fans think about their team. So that's how you learn more about the team, and you find those guys, especially at the college level, find those guys that you can get excited about when your team drafts them in the pros, which is part of what Nate and I have so much fun doing. So go ahead and hit that comment section up, and we'll definitely respond. And also help us grow our channel. We're just trying to get as many people involved in the conversation as we can. So hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and hopefully we can grow, and hopefully you guys get more entertainment from us and find more valuable things, so that you know who to look for and who to watch in 2022. All right, thanks. That was my video for today. We'll see you next time.